All right, I have not done a proper garden tour in quite a few weeks now. We've been really busy. I've shown a few spots of the garden here and there, but let's do a walkthrough and see what's going on. One, as you can see, the weeds are taking over. I have been weeding a little bit every morning and evening, but this is a big garden and there's only me and there's a lot of freaking weeds. It is what it is. I'm not overly concerned. The radishes that went to seed, I'm probably gonna pull, honestly. The kids aren't really eating the seed pods. They don't mind them. It's just not our favorite and it looks like a hot mess, so I'd rather just pull them and remulch this bed and have one spot looking a little less chaotic. I might plant a fall planting of carrots in here. I haven't decided. There are a few big like watermelon. Let's just pull one and see. These are supposed to be a watermelon radish. Yeah, you can kind of see the color. So these did get big. They just took a really long time. Way longer than I even expected them to take. I have some zinnias that are doing all right. These lilies were beautiful. I showed them in the video of the storm damage. They just picked the wrong time to bloom. This, oh, these stupid Japanese beetles. This is, I think it's anise. I'm not sure how you say it. When I first saw the leaves growing, I thought it was some catmint or catnip that had just popped up here, and then I smelled it and it smells like licorice, and it's obviously not fennel, so that's what I'm assuming it is. And it is a gift from a bird, or 2 years ago that the previous owners had it and it just didn't grow last year for some reason, but I think it's really pretty. So I'll leave it there. I'm fine with that. I don't know that I'd use it, but it can stay. More zinnias coming, more zinnias coming. My beautiful asparagus patch full of weeds and Japanese beetles apparently. We'll just ignore that because it looks so bad and I just don't want to deal with it. More lilies. See, here's some catnip. Chickens in the backyard. As long as they don't come in the garden. Gladiola gonna bloom soon. This is the last lily in this area to bloom. This just opened up this morning, actually. It's gorgeous. This clematis was going to bloom. It had a bud ready to open and the horses nipped it off because it was outside. Really mad about that, but it looks like there's one more down here maybe. And the same thing, this one down here was a different color clematis and the horses bit off the bloom. So, bad ponies. These peas are doing all right. This side is pretty much done. This side is still blooming. So I think this side I'm gonna pull up in the next couple days. This side I'll probably leave for a little bit longer. You can see, still blooming. Lots of pickling cucumbers coming along. The plants are doing okay. I am fighting cucumber beetles. Oh, you can see one right here. See that little shit? Yeah, you. We don't like you. The cucumber beetles and squash bugs. So they're doing okay. I'm not anticipating a great cucumber harvest this year. Melons are doing okay, shockingly, because I have learned this, which I should have realized because if I stand back and look at it, this is sloped really well. So all on the other side of the garage is pavement and this all goes down. So the water that rains on our driveway comes down here, comes around this way, floods, and completely washes out this space. So future years, I think I'm gonna have to do raised beds in here and flip-flop things around. The melons are doing okay, despite being flooded every time it rains. This is the only melon I have growing right now. That should be an Athena cantaloupe. A lot of them are flowering, but that's the only one that has a flower or a melon so far. Sunflowers are doing okay. After I had to prop them up with these, that really helped. And we had actually another big storm come through, and we're supposed to get one tonight and tomorrow, and these have pretty much saved them. So I'll probably, each year I plant sunflowers, plant them along the fence so that as they get big I can just strap them down. I did have to pull one. You can see it laying right there because somebody nipped the top off. I'm assuming it was one of the naughty horses, because this is where the hot wire is and this is where the top of the fence is. And as you can see, the plants are above it. And I think maybe the hot wire got left off and they realized it. The corn is doing okay. It is starting to shoot up tassels a little bit early, I feel like, because not all of these have silks forming. So I'm a little bit worried about how the pollination, trying to find one with silk, how the pollination is going to go when these are, like, you can see that dusty pollen shooting off of it. There should be silks poking up through that, and there's not. There's just a few. See, like this one has silk. That's what will become a corn cob if it gets pollinated from all the pollen in here. So cross your fingers that I don't just have this huge patch of sweet corn that's going to do nothing. And this is still shorter than, I mean, it should be. This is like shoulder height on me, so ideally it would be bigger than that, but whatever. Over here I have been having poppies blooming right here off and on. The last one just is done. We'll see if I get any more. And then my borage that I almost killed from transplanting is blooming, so that's nice. I don't know what I'll do with it. Literally, I just wanted it because it's a blue flower and blue's my favorite color. This should mostly be gladiolas and dahlias with maybe a few lilies thrown in here, which should bloom in the next month. These got planted later, so we'll see. Here's tomatoes that got planted later. They're doing all right. The bigger ones have tomatoes growing on them already. The little ones don't. My pumpkins, I actually have 5 pumpkin plants in here, and some of them, as you can see, are starting to flower. So I'm excited because I only had 2 pumpkin plants last year, and I grew pumpkins that were bigger than we could buy. So hoping that maybe by having 5, we'll have a really good amount. This red cabbage was actually starting to look nice, and then it's been eaten. I have no idea what got it because I haven't found the perpetrator. There still is a solid little head in there, so I'm just gonna leave it. Either it will continue to get eaten by whatever pest is eating it, or it will bounce back and keep forming the heads. We'll see. It's not a huge deal to me either way. I got some things planted in this corner. I pulled over some of the pink bee balm. This is another type of lavender, since the one that I had before didn't overwinter here well. I wanted to try a different variety. This, I think, is a sedum, if I'm remembering correctly. And this is more yarrow, which I have everywhere, but this is just like a fun pink yarrow instead of white. Again, here's more stuff waiting to bloom. I have been bringing in logs and a little bit of rocks to define the borders in here, just for my kids walking through and my husband. Oh, and obviously I brought in a cattle panel there. I was going to try and trellis those like I did the other ones, but I ran out of time. And the same thing with these cucumbers. I was going to try and build a trellis here, but I just ran out of time. So a cattle panel was a quick fix, even if it's, you know, like $20 a piece. Okra's doing okay. I'm not sure how big it should be. I know everyone that grows them, they're like huge. So I'm not sure how big they should be at this point, if they're stunted, whatever. And I just found out that my husband actually likes okra. And he doesn't like vegetables. And he's like, oh, I like okra. Okay, great. I would have put it in a better spot if I knew he was going to eat it instead of me just doing like a test crop, but whatever. These cucumbers are doing okay. So some of these are more pickling cucumbers that were gifted from a friend, and some were in that area, which if you've seen my previous videos, you would know. I had to take them down. They were not growing too shaded over there. So I moved them over here. They were doing well, but then when we had that big washout, it did kill probably 3 or 4 of them. The rest of them seem to be doing okay. The summer squash is doing good. The plants are getting big. I only have, I think by looks, I only have this one growing so far, but that's fine. And these little tomato plants are doing all right. Have more roses blooming. I still need to bring in more mulch. It's just been so hot that bringing in mulch is not, it's not something I've wanted to do. So here you can see these are all sweet potatoes that I'm vining out this way. There used to be a path here, but I figured the sweet potatoes are going to go crazy, so those should just get expanded into the melon space. And then that's acorn squash right there is doing okay. So this is more wood that I brought in. The nasturtiums are doing good, and they're so pretty. On this vine. And this is one of these sun sugar cherry tomato plants. There's one in there, kind of ripe. I've been eating them. They're too good. They don't last around here. Either the kids or I eat them. Kale's looking lovely after my second planting, and the rhubarb is doing really well. I love how that bed is looking all leafed out. These banana peppers are kind of meh. I'm thinking it's too much shade for them because I'm not really seeing a lot of peppers growing on them, which my daughter will be disappointed. We got one so far, and then I don't really see anything else. These tomatoes are doing really well. I keep trimming them back because there's just an explosion of leaves. But I mean, we've got nice sized tomatoes growing as well. We've been picking, this is another of the orange ones. You see he's in there ripe. We've been eating those, they're so good. This is going to be my first big one that's going to be ripe. This is a San Marzano. Needs a little more time, but getting close. So this bed is the biggest change. The zinnias were here last time. This used to go, you know, to the elderberries. I took the back half off, and then there was that trellis where the cucumbers were, and it was getting overgrown with the blackberries again. Took the cucumbers, moved them to that other spot, put more mulch down, shrunk the half of the bed that really gets way too much shade. Bought some little flowers to plant along the edge just because I want it to look cute, and I moved some peppers that were given to me that were in another spot and just not growing because it was too shady. They're teeny tiny. I don't really care if they do anything. I just figured I would give them a little better chance. The beans are doing good. There's lots of weeds in here, but I mean they're growing lots of beans, so that's the point. I definitely think I can demonstrate how much that's leaning. The rebar is definitely holding that up right now. I think maybe next year I would use something stronger than these and taller. This was my first year doing climbing beans, and it wasn't, this is pretty shaded, so I wasn't sure how tall they would get, but they need more height. Pretty little phlox. This is that rattlesnake orchid. It's getting so close to opening all the way. I can't wait. And my little bushy cosmos. They're not super happy in the shaded area, but things happen. Not everybody gets the perfect space. These potatoes in the grow bags, I mean, I don't do anything with them. They just sit here. They look fine. I bought some perennial succulents to put in this corner. This one is hen and chicks, and I can't remember what these other ones are. Maybe these are the sedum? I don't know. I'm not really a succulent person, but I was just like, yeah, why not? This corner is so shaded, and this is the one you remember I had planted Swiss chard and celery in. A little bit of the Swiss chard did pop up, but it's so teeny tiny that it's basically useless. So I think in the future I'm going to mulch this again really heavy, maybe get a little bench, like a sitting bench, and this will just be my area to sit and hang out because it's shaded and I can have a nice quiet corner in the garden. These little cute dragons, these are a new addition. They were my husband's anniversary gift to me for the garden because I'm obsessed with dragons. If you guys didn't know that, I'm a book nerd, fantasy books in particular. If it has a dragon on it, I'm sold. So that's how I ended up with that. These hostas that were transplanted back here earlier are doing awesome. Getting really pretty purple flowers. Oops, watch me knock one off. These cabbages are doing fine. They don't seem to have encountered the same pests as the red cabbages, but the heads are still real, like it's tiny. Last year this time I had huge heads of cabbage, so I don't know if it was just bad spot for them again. This bed is meh, you know, potatoes in the middle, the crappy showing of lettuce, and the basically non-existent spinach. These just started blooming, which I'm actually really liking. They're so cool, and a bunch of them pop up on each plant. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about them because they're black and white, and you know, I don't really have anything in those colors in my garden, but I'm a big fan. I got them from Costco, like 160 bulbs for $10 or something. So, oh my goodness, look at all those Japanese beetles. They love the knotweed for whatever reason. I had mulberry trees in here the last time I did a big tour in pots. I was waiting to get our orchard cleared to plant them in the orchard. Finally realized that wasn't going to happen. So here's one mulberry tree. Here's the other mulberry tree. They will sit here until we have the orchard cleared, and then they will have to get transplanted again. The raspberry patch is exploding with raspberries. Very delicious. I have to pick them every day because the Japanese beetles lay their eggs in them, and then you get gross little worms in your raspberries, which nobody wants because that's disgusting. My garlic is pretty much done. I'm going to harvest it sometime in the next few days, but it needs to be dry. So that's a little bit tricky if it's going to rain again. I'll have to wait. I harvested some from the little bonus garlic area the other day just to see. Those bulbs looked great, so I'm excited to pull up all these big ones. I'll do a whole harvest video on that, harvesting all of the garlic. These radishes I still really need to pull up. Technically, if it's going to rain tonight, I should probably do it tonight so they don't split. But I was going to do those in the same time that I do this video with the garlic. So we'll see what happens. I got a few more lilies holding out on this side that are going to bloom yet. The onions are doing okay. I weeded this bed the other day and I accidentally pulled 3 of them that were really small still. It's a little bit sad because I'm trying to just leave those in for as long as possible. I got them planted really late, so they're going to be small regardless, but any extra time I can give them is beneficial. This I think is another borage coming up. Oh yes, it is. See, here's a little bloom down here. Ta-da! The strawberries, you know, I just went to weed, whatever. Oh, look, this glad's thinking about opening for me. Ooh, I love gladiolus. And the sweet peas are pretty. I have informed the children, do not eat these. So they know. I'm really loving these ones, these striped. Oh, that's gorgeous. The carrot bed is also something that I need to harvest. I was thinking I would harvest it at the same time as the garlic, but I've pulled a few test carrots and they're getting like fat, but they're not super long yet, so I'll give them a little time. These ones that you see have gone to seed. They were planted last year and somehow I missed getting them harvested. So I'm just letting them go to seed and I'll collect seed from them. But the other ones, in the next couple weeks probably will be getting pulled. And then I think this bed will become my new garlic bed for next year because I've ordered even more garlic. So I'll have 6 different types of garlic to plant. So that space is not going to work. I'm going to need a much bigger space. Oh, Max, you're fine. I need to collect seeds from the alliums. See, they're all ready to go. Bright orange lily. This dahlia I'm really bummed out about. It was super close to blooming and it kind of got knocked over and snapped in that big storm. So that's a bummer. I'm loving this lavender bee balm. It's really tall. And the bees love it too, obviously. It's really tall and pretty. So my garden sage, oh my goodness, is so sad. I'm kind of a little late this year, but in the future I need to plant it somewhere else because clearly the bee balm blocked too much of its sun this year. Echinacea is so pretty. More dahlias and zinnias coming. Chives are ridiculous. If anybody wants chive seeds, I got about, 200,000 of them. So chives are like a weed basically at this point. So not too much has changed really. We need to trim more trees. We need to trim a few more trees along this side. Definitely some more trees there, and definitely some more trees there. It's hard because it makes a mess somewhere else. I just keep thinking that, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, this garden's gonna be perfect. I mean, it'll never be perfect, but it'll get a little bit better every year. I'll get a little better weed control system, a little more sun. But yeah, so that is the long overdue garden tour update. I'm sorry that it's so long. I highly doubt anyone is actually watching this whole video, but oh well. For those of you that watched even just, a couple minutes, thank you for watching. And I guess Max says goodnight.